Richard here. Today I'm going to make a little video about honing guides and specifically a new accessory to the Veritas honing guide Mark II, I think they call it. Now I don't use this honing guide very often. I've had it for many years, and when I first started woodworking it was very helpful, and I use water stones, and this in conjunction with water stones is a very good sharpening aid. But over the years I've learned to sharpen freehand. However, there are some occasions when I still reach for the honing guide. For example, when I have a lot of work to do on a blade, it's easier for me, rather than sharpening freehand, it's easier to put it in a honing guide and almost go to sleep. Almost go to sleep whilst sharpening. If I'm going to be there for 10-15 minutes, that's a lot easier. Nonetheless, there is one drawback with this honing guide, and that is when you're trying to sharpen something which is very narrow, let's say 3/8 of an inch or smaller. This chisel is 3/32, and particularly when it's a mortise type chisel where the chisel is quite high, often higher than this particular chisel, as you can see, is higher than it is wide. The drawback with this honing guide, I'll show you how this works. It's got a rough width scale here, so you would position it somewhere according to the width. I actually, just as a note, I don't use this registration pin. I find that sometimes the chisel can get trapped underneath the corner and it can chip off. So what I've done is I've just marked here 25 degrees. So you would put this up there like that and try and clamp the knobs here on the side, these two knobs. You would try and clamp them evenly so that the clamping bar remains parallel. Then remove the registration jig and go to work. And that's okay, but the problem is, because it's clamping on a very narrow surface, it really does not take much for this to move. Now, why is that important? There are situations, obviously look at this, this is a 1/8 of an inch chisel. Clamping area is about 1/16 of an inch. It's very difficult. So really you're sharpening this freehand anyway. Veritas recently issued this, which is a narrow blade head. It replaces this standard blade head, and I bought it, with two things in mind. One, I wanted to be able to sharpen these chisels if I had to. If I didn't want to do it freehand, I wanted to have a jig. And the second reason, there are situations where there are blades that really require a straight or 90-degree edge. And I find that this clamping bar, the way it can slip, doesn't always ensure that. So the way this works very quickly is you unscrew the knurled knob and the washer, remove that, and it's very simple. You put this on. I use position 2 most of the time. Screw this back in. There we go. Okay, should just be, there we go. Now the way this works, it has jaws here which are slightly canted, and they're naturally, well, they're self-centering. You can see that. So if, for example, we would put this on here, roughly clamp it somewhere in the middle, it's not important, and then we slip the chisel in here, move these up. You want it somewhere around 25. Now you loosen that, slide it up so you're next to your mark, more or less. Tighten this and remove this. Now it's clamping on you know, what is that, 5/8 of an inch? Much better, and it is impossible for this to move. So that's going to give you much more secure, you know, much more secure sharpening aid. And you still have the use of the micro bevel here and so on. So that's one issue. So we overcome the chisels issue. There are, let me move these out of the way. Oh, maybe I should just show the 1/8 of an inch chisel. I should add that Lee Nielsen also recently introduced a slide clamping honing guide, but I think the smallest that their guide can handle is 1/4 of an inch. So that's one of the reasons I plumped for this one. So again, put this on somewhere in the middle. Carefully slide this in. Tighten that down. Slide this up. Now I can move that into an exact position. Remove this. Tighten that down. And that is absolutely secure. So perfect. That does the job I hoped it would do. I have 2 planes that require an edge that is 90 degrees or as close as possible to 90 degrees. One is this Lee Nielsen 95L, and what this is used for is for jointing an edge. So that is a perfect square here, 90 degrees, and you would run that against the surface of your wood like so, and it would make this edge exactly square. The thing about this plane, it has very little lateral adjustment, so you really need to be able to sharpen it square. So again, slide this on somewhere in the middle. Somewhere around 25 degrees. Tighten that down and remove. And as you can see, the blade is just long enough to sit in the jaws comfortably, no problem. So again, I'm very happy with that, and that is solid. Now when I called Lee Valley and I asked them specifically about whether this new narrow blade honing guide works with the shoulder plane, this is 1/2 inch shoulder blade, they said no, it doesn't. But I thought to myself, well, they have such a good customer service policy that I'll get it anyway, I'll try it for myself, and if it doesn't work I can send it back. So again, we put this on somewhere in the middle, slide this in, alright, move that up, so that's fine, remove that and tighten. Now as you can see, I don't know why they told me on the phone it doesn't work, but it works perfectly. The shoulder plane has very little lateral adjustment on it, very little, especially if you use these set screws here to set the blade. And that's what you want from a shoulder blade. So it's paramount that this edge is sharpened at 90 degrees, or as close as possible to the edge of the chisel, at the edge of the blade here. And that's really what I've got. So I'm happy with that. That's the narrow blade guide from Veritas. To be honest, I think I'm probably going to keep this blade head, on it, and I'll use this when I have a really wide blade. But most of the time, this is going to be my preferred honing guide head. So I hope you find that useful, and sorry if I was a bit rambling at times, but I hope I covered everything. and leave any comments or questions below, and I'll try and answer them. But thanks for watching, and I hope you found that useful. Goodbye.